Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The scorching sun was slowly sinking over the golden horizon of the African savannah. The wind made the tall, dry grasses ripple, and the distant cries of hyenas announced the approach of night. In the midst of this wild landscape, a woman moved forward with difficulty, her newborn baby clutched to her chest. Her clothes were torn, her steps unsteady, and her gaze betrayed a mixture of despair and determination. Her name was Amara. Married too young, she had believed in a future of stability and tenderness. But her cowardly and cruel husband abandoned her after the birth of their child, claiming she was nothing but a burden. Rejected by her in-laws and homeless, she was left alone, condemned to face the vastness of the savannah. As she desperately searched for a safe place to spend the night, her weary body gave way. Amara fell to her knees, clutching her baby to protect him. Tears streamed down her cheeks when she heard a dull thud, a deep roar that shook the air around her. From the shadows emerged a majestic lion, its golden mane illuminated by the last rays of the sun. Amara's heart froze. She prepared herself for the inevitable, murmuring a final prayer for her child's survival, even if it meant her own demise. But what happened was beyond imagination. Instead of attacking, the lion approached slowly, its intense gaze fixed on the infant. With inexplicable gentleness, it sat down near them, emitting a deep growl, like a silent promise. Amara then understood that she was not alone. This king of the savannah, instead of being a predator, would become their protector in this dangerous night. And so began an incredible story, that of a betrayed woman, an innocent child, and a lion with a mysterious destiny that would change their lives forever. Amara had never imagined that her marriage would turn into a nightmare. She had married Kwame, a respected man in her village. Tall, charismatic, and the son of an influential chief, he had seduced Amara with his promises of a bright future and his reassuring smile. She believed that by entrusting her life to him, she would find protection and stability. But the illusion was quickly shattered. When their child was born, fragile and premature, Kwame had changed. His gaze had darkened, his tone had become sharp, and he kept repeating that this baby was not a sign of strength, but a weakness. Amara, still weakened by childbirth, had tried to soothe him, but her words fell on deaf ears. One morning, without warning, he led her out of the village, under the pretext of taking her to see a healer in the savannah. Amara, clinging to a lingering sense of trust, had let herself be guided. But after several hours of walking, he stopped, his eyes shifting, and said in an icy voice, "This is where our journey ends. You no longer have a place by my side." At first, Amara thought it was a bad joke. But when Kwame turned his back, without looking back, she understood the truth. Her heart leaped with pain, her legs trembled, and tears blurred her vision. She cried out his name, but her calls were lost in the wind. Alone with her crying baby, she remained motionless for a long moment, unable to comprehend the magnitude of the betrayal. The memories of their wedding, the joyful dances and the promises exchanged, seemed to be nothing more than a cruel mirage. Then reality set in, she had to move forward. The sun was already setting, and the shadows of the savannah were lengthening. The grasses rustled, and animal cries echoed in the distance. Every sound made her jump, but the fear of dying here, alone with her child, gave her the strength to keep walking. Every step was a struggle. The sand still burned beneath her bare feet, thirst parched her throat, and her body, still fragile after childbirth, threatened to collapse. She gently cradled her baby against her, humming comforting words, even though deep down, she was trembling. Finally, exhausted, Amara collapsed near a large acacia tree. Her hands trembled as she clutched her infant to her chest. It was then that a powerful roar ripped through the air. His eyes widened. The king of the savannah was approaching. The roar resounded again, deep and resonant, like thunder rolling over the plains. Amara felt her breath catch. She clutched her baby to her chest, tears blurring her vision. The little one whimpered, and its faint cries seemed to be lost in the vastness of the savannah. Behind the tall grass, a figure emerged. Majestic, the lion advanced slowly, its fiery mane illuminated by the last rays of twilight. Its amber eyes fixed on Amara with an almost human intensity. Amara's heart was pounding so hard she thought it would burst. She thought about running, but her weak legs refused to move. She thought about hiding, but it was too late. So she did the only thing she could, she curled up, shielding her child with her body, murmuring a desperate prayer. But the lion did not leap. Instead, it approached slowly, placing its large paws on the dry earth with surprising delicacy. When it was only a few steps away, it stopped, sat down, and uttered a low growl, which sounded not like a threat, but like a strange, deep melody, like a soothing song. Amara looked up in surprise. The lion inclined his head slightly, his gaze shifting from Amara's tired face to the infant she held tightly. Then, unexpectedly, he lay down on the ground, his imposing bulk forming a barrier between them and the growing darkness. The young mother dared not believe it. Was it a trap? Or a sign from fate? Yet her baby stopped crying. Its little eyes half opened, gazing at the animal with an inexplicable serenity. Amara felt a shiver run through her body. The king of the savannah, far from representing a threat, had just become their protector. During that first night, whenever a disturbing noise arose, the shrill laughter of a hyena, the piercing cry of a jackal, the lion would growl softly, and silence would return. Exhausted, Amara finally fell asleep against her child, under the unexpected protection of the most fearsome creature in the savannah. That night, she understood a profound truth: sometimes, survival comes from where you least expect it. The moon rose high in the sky, bathing the savannah in a silvery glow. The silence was deceptive. In the thick grasses, nocturnal life was awakening. Insects buzzed, owls hooted, and predators searched for their prey. Amara would sometimes open her eyes, casting an uncertain glance at the lion lying a few steps away. Its massive silhouette still inspired fear in her, but little by little, a strange trust settled in her heart. Her baby slept peacefully, nestled against her, as if he too felt the invisible protection of this animal. Suddenly, a sharp noise shattered the tranquility. A sinister sneer followed. Then another. In the gloom, several pairs of yellow eyes lit up. Hyenas. Amara's blood freezes. She had heard the elders say that these scavengers did not hesitate to attack the living when they were in packs. Her arms tightened around her child, ready to sacrifice herself to protect him. But before she could even scream, the lion leaped to his feet. His mane bristled, and his roar rang out into the night, so powerful that it made the air tremble. The hyenas hesitated, retreating slightly, but their hunger drove them to slowly encircle the mother and her child. The lion took a few steps forward, positioning himself before Amara like a living wall. His fangs gleamed in the moonlight, and his eyes flashed with rage. A hyena dared to approach too closely. In a flash, the king of the savannah leaped forward, and with a swipe of his paw, sent it tumbling to the ground with a piercing cry. The others, terrified, retreated further. But they did not give up. They circled the lion, trying to find a weakness. The king roared again, his growls echoing across the plain, reminding all the predators who dominated this territory. Finally, after long minutes of tension, the hyenas gave up and disappeared into the darkness. Silence fell again. The lion slowly returned to Amara. She was trembling, breathless, unable to believe what she had just seen. He sat down beside her, his eyes shining in the night, as if to say, "As long as I'm here, nobody will touch you." Amara looked down at her sleeping baby, then at the lion. For the first time since her abandonment, she felt a spark of hope. That night, the savannah had offered him an unexpected protector. The first ray of sunlight pierced the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The tall grasses of the savannah blazed under this new light. Amara slowly opened her eyes. Fatigue still weighed heavily on her, but she immediately noticed something strange: she had been asleep. Sleeping, while she was alone in hostile territory with a fragile newborn, should have been impossible. Yet, the lion's presence enveloped her like an invisible protection. His gaze fell upon the animal. He was still there, lying nearby, his head raised, observing the horizon like a tireless guardian. His ears twitched at the slightest noise, but his body remained calm, imposing and reassuring. Amara held her sleeping baby close to her, then, in a timid voice, whispered, "You saved me, you and my child." The lion turned his head towards her. His golden eyes seemed to shine with a mysterious intelligence, as if he understood every word. Then he slowly rose and walked a few steps east, before stopping and staring at her. Amara frowned. Was it a coincidence? Or, did he want her to follow him? Her stomach was growling with hunger, her throat was parched, and her baby needed milk. Staying there meant waiting for death. But following a lion, that was unthinkable. Yet, deep down, a powerful intuition was awakening, this animal hadn't appeared by chance. Taking a deep breath, Amara struggled to her feet, her child wrapped in a cloth against her chest. The lion waited for her, motionless, before resuming its slow walk. Each step behind him seemed like a leap into the unknown. The tall grasses parted before his majesty, and Amara advanced in his wake, strangely convinced that he was leading her somewhere. As the morning wore on, she noticed the lion occasionally stopping near certain bushes. In one of them, she discovered wild fruits still juicy. In another, a clear spring gushed forth between the rocks. Amara began to cry, bringing the water to her lips. This wild beast, which nature had fashioned to kill, was guiding her towards life. When the sun was high, Amara and her child rested in the shade of a tree. The lion lay down a few meters away, a silent and vigilant guardian. That day, Amara understood that her destiny had just changed forever. She was no longer just an abandoned woman. She was a mother guided by a king of the savannah, ready to write a story that no one would believe. The sun was already high when the lion resumed his walk. Amara, exhausted but resolute, held her child close and followed his heavy, majestic steps. Each time she slowed down, the animal stopped, turned toward her, and waited. This behavior moved her deeply. He wasn't acting like a predator, but like a guide. The savannah opened before them, immense and intimidating. The distant cries of birds of prey and the swift steps of antelopes fleeing through the grass reminded Amara that she was but a stranger in this wild kingdom. Yet, she felt a strange security, as if walking behind this lion made her a part of this territory. After several hours, Amara began to notice traces of human activity, a necklace left in the dust, a broken spear half buried. Her heart beat faster. Could a village possibly be located nearby? Suddenly, the vegetation changed. The tall grasses gave way to denser trees, and the scent of fresh water and wood smoke reached her nostrils. Amara quickened her pace, her baby moaning softly against her chest. Then she saw him. Behind a curtain of baobabs, a small village appeared, almost hidden from the outside world. Huts of earth and straw rose up around a watering hole, and children laughed as they played near the well. The sound of voices, songs, and drums echoed in the air. Amara stopped abruptly, moved to tears. After so many hours of despair, she had finally found the men's trail. But before she could take another step, a cry rose from the village. A lion. The villagers rushed out of their huts, brandishing spears and bows. Amara understood at once. They couldn't see her, only the beast walking in front of her. Terrified that her protector might be hurt, she emerged from the tall grass, screaming at the top of her lungs. "Wait! Don't hurt him!" The villagers froze, stunned at the sight of this woman holding an infant, closely followed by the king of the savannah. The lion, however, remained calm, sitting dignifiedly beside Amara as if to prove he was no threat. A heavy silence fell over the assembly. Incredulous glances were exchanged. Then, an old man stepped forward. His white beard and ebony staff betrayed his role as an elder and a wise man. His narrowed eyes observed the lion for a long time, then settled on Amara. In a deep voice, he declared, "This is not a simple encounter. The king of the animals does not bond with humans without reason. This woman and her child carry a destiny that we must heed. Amara, shaken, felt that her path had just taken a turn she could never have imagined. Silence still hung over the village. All the inhabitants kept their eyes fixed on Amara, her sleeping child, and the lion sitting calmly beside her. It was like a scene from an ancient tale. The old man signaled to the villagers to lower their weapons. Some obeyed immediately, others hesitated, murmuring that this beast could only be a danger. But the wise man's authority commanded respect. "Come closer," he said to Amara in a soft voice. Her legs trembling, she advanced, clutching her baby to her chest. The lion, ever imperturbable, walked beside her, and no one dared stop him. When she stood before the elder, he slowly raised his hand and touched the child's cheek. His eyes widened, as if he saw beyond the mere fragile body. "This child is not like the others," he murmured. The villagers approached, eager to understand. The old man continued, his voice resonating like an incantation. "For generations, a prophecy has circulated in our lands. It says that one day, a betrayed and abandoned woman will be reborn in the savannah, carrying in her arms a child marked by destiny. This child will grow up under the protection of the king of the animals and become the link between humankind and nature." Amara felt her legs tremble. Was it possible? She, a simple rejected wife, could be the mother of a child destined for such a future? She wanted to protest, to say that it was only a misunderstanding, but the depth of the old man's gaze silenced her. The wise man then fixed his eyes on the lion. "And here is the proof. The king of the savannah would never have chosen to protect a woman and an infant, unless the spirits had guided him." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some crossed themselves, others knelt, convinced they were witnessing a sacred event. Amara, with tears in her eyes, murmured in a trembling voice. "I didn't ask for anything. I only wanted to save my child." The old man smiled gently. "The greatest destinies are never chosen. They are imposed. You are not here by chance, Amara. You and your son have been brought to us to fulfill a mission that we will discover together." At that moment, the lion roared, a roar that shook the earth and raised eyes to the sky. For the village, it was the ultimate sign, the prophecy had just been fulfilled. Amara, still incredulous, understood one essential thing: her child was not only her reason for living, he was the key to a future greater than anything she had ever imagined. Night had fallen on the hidden village. Fires crackled in the center of the square, and the inhabitants, still disturbed by the day, whispered among themselves. Amara, sitting apart in a small hut that had been given to her, gently rocked her baby. Her mind, however, was in turmoil. The old man's words still echoed in his head: "This child will grow up under the protection of the king of the animals and will become the link between humans and nature." She could hardly believe he was talking about her son, that fragile little being she had just given birth to. "He's just a baby," she murmured, gently touching his forehead. "How can he bear such a burden?" But deep down, another voice whispered to her that nothing she had experienced was a coincidence. Kwame's cruel abandonment, her desperate walk across the savannah, the encounter with the lion. Everything seemed woven by an invisible hand. Amara shook her head, her heart heavy. "No. I am just an ordinary woman. I don't have the strength to bear a prophecy." A rustling sound at the entrance of the hut made her jump. It was the old man. His wise eyes seemed to sense the inner turmoil that consumed her. He entered without a word and sat down opposite her, the torchlight casting shifting shadows on his wrinkled face. "You doubt," he said softly. Amara lowered her eyes. "How can I not doubt? I'm nothing special, and my child is so fragile. How can he be this link you're talking about?" The wise man smiled patiently. "The greatest strengths are always hidden within the greatest weaknesses. The prophecy never said the child would be born strong. It said he would become strong. But for that to happen, he will have to survive, and so will you." Amara felt her eyes fill with tears. "But what if I'm not strong enough? What if I lose him?" The old man placed his hand on hers. "So remember this: the lion didn't choose you by mistake. the king of the savannah follows the invisible laws of nature. If he protects you, it's because your son already has a place in the great balance of the world. Outside, as if to confirm his words, the lion roared into the night. This powerful roar resonated in Amara's chest. She held her child a little tighter and felt, for the first time in a long time, a spark of courage ignite within her. But deep down, a worry persisted. If the prophecy was true, then her son would one day be coveted, and dangers far greater than hyenas would come to meet them. Several days' walk from the hidden village, in the arid lands he called his domain, Kwame still savored his decision. For him, abandoning Amara and her child had been a relief. In the eyes of his clan, a weak wife and a fragile infant were nothing but useless burdens. He had convinced himself that by getting rid of them, he was preserving his honor and his strength. But everything changed when a traveling merchant brought back a strange story. "I saw," said the man, "a woman with a baby, walking in the savannah alongside a lion. People say it's a sign from the spirits." Kwame frowned. A woman, an infant, a lion. His heart sank as he realized who it could be. "No," he murmured. "Impossible." But the rumors grew. There was talk of an ancient prophecy, of a child destined to unite humankind and nature, and of an entire village that had witnessed this miracle. Some even claimed that the lion himself had fought off hyenas to protect the mother and child. Anger rose in Kwame's heart. She should have died, she and that damn child. For him, the idea that Amara could become the embodiment of a legend was unbearable. Worse still, if the people began to believe in this prophecy, his own name and authority risked disappearing into oblivion. So he made a decision. Gathering a handful of loyal men, warriors hungry for glory and power, he spoke to them with venomous words. "This prophecy is nothing but a lie. But if the people believe it, we must shatter it before it takes hold. This woman is nothing. This child is nothing. And this lion is just a beast that can bleed." His men nodded, arming their spears and sharpening their knives. Kwame's pride and jealousy had become a far more dangerous threat than the predators of the savannah. Meanwhile, in the hidden village, Amara was still unaware that the man who had betrayed her was walking towards her again, guided not by love or remorse, but by hatred and the fear of losing his power. The lion, for his part, kept watch every night, his golden eyes scanning the horizon, as if he already sensed the coming storm. Dawn broke over the hidden village with a golden light that betrayed the heavy tension in the air. Amara cradled her child, aware that something was approaching. The lion, faithful guardian, walked a few steps ahead of her, its ears pricked and its muscles tense. A cry suddenly rang out in the distance. "Amara!" Kwame's voice ripped through the air like a thunderclap. His face was etched with anger and determination, and behind him, his armed men advanced with long strides, their spears glinting in the sun. Amara felt her heart race. She couldn't flee, the village was enclosed by hills and forest. Everything now depended on the lion's protection and her own inner strength. Kwame stepped forward, his eyes fixed on her. "You should never have survived. Give me that child." The old man from the village, coming out into the center of the square, raised his hand and said calmly, "This child is under our protection, and anyone who dares to raise a hand against him will have to face more than just a man." Kwame sneered, contemptuously. "And what can an old sage and a few villagers do against me?" But before he could take the next step, a powerful roar echoed behind him. The lion emerged from the shadows with a speed and strength that stunned all the men. Its golden eyes flashed, and its mane seemed to burn in the sunlight. The warriors retreated in terror. The king of the savannah stood before Amara, roaring so loudly that the earth itself seemed to tremble. Kwame tried to advance nonetheless, but the lion stared at him, its jaws ready to snap, and even the most daring of men felt their courage melt away. Amara, her hands trembling but her gaze determined, stepped forward behind the lion. "Kwame. It's over. You can no longer control what is greater than you." The king of the animals, as if to emphasize his words, took a step forward, asserting his power and protection. Kwame suddenly felt that he was nothing compared to the force of nature and the determination of a mother. Overcome by fear and humiliation, he retreated, then turned and fled with his men, unable to face the truth. He had been defeated not by brute force, but by courage, loyalty, and a mysterious link between man and nature. The village erupted in cheers. Amara held her child close, while the lion sat beside her, vigilant but calm. For the first time in a long time, she felt that the worst was over. But deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. Her destiny and that of her child were linked to something much bigger, and much more mysterious. The days following the confrontation were calm but filled with magic. The village, once hidden and almost forgotten, welcomed Amara and her child as chosen ones. Every inhabitant seemed to recognize the prophecy and respect the sacred bond that had been created between the mother, the child, and the lion. Amara began to adapt to this new life. She learned about the resources of the savannah, guided by the lion who continued to watch over them. Wild fruits, hidden waterholes, and natural shelters became their allies. The nights, even under the full moon, no longer frightened her. Her child, whom she named Tay, grew up surrounded by a special energy. His laughter seemed to soothe the animals, and his mere gaze drew the respect and curiosity of the creatures of the savannah. Amara gradually understood that the old man's words were true. Her son carried within him a unique destiny. The lion, always by their side, became more than a protector. He was a guide, a symbol of strength and wisdom, and a reminder that nature itself had chosen to protect them. Amara found herself talking to the lion, as if to a friend, sharing her hopes and fears. And each time, he responded with a deep and reassuring gaze. One morning, as the sun rose behind the golden hills, Amara felt something change within her. The fear and doubt that had gnawed at her since her abandonment had vanished. She was now a strong mother, a woman aware of her role in the unfolding story. The entire village watched her with respect, and the lion sat beside her, majestic and vigilant. Together, they formed an unbreakable alliance. Amara whispered to her son, who was asleep in her arms. "Tay, your future is bright. And I will always be there to protect you, just like the lion did for us." The wind blew across the savannah, carrying with it the distant roar of the king of the animals, like an echo of the promise of an extraordinary future. Mother and child had found their place, not only in the savannah, but in the destiny that awaited them. And so began a new life, where strength, courage, and love mingled with the magic of nature, leaving behind the painful past and paving the way for a legendary future.